Welcome to Knife Thoughts. This video is going to be my full review and comparison of these two knives. And these are two versions of the Benny's clip from this second run of the pattern that Jack Wolf Knives is doing here in 2024. So the Benny's clip is a pattern that Jack Wolf Knives released early on, relatively early on, when they were still using M390, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And here in 2024, they're re-releasing it in several different variations that are available at all dealers, and then also an exclusive for Knives Ship Free. So definitely check that out. I think it's great that they're doing these dealer exclusives, and Knives Ship Free has a really cool one on this Benny's clip. But another new thing that they're doing here with this run of knives is the introduction of the Steel Series. So the Steel Series is a new, more budget-friendly option or kind of line of knives within Jack Wolf Knives that Ben has decided to do. And so I was really excited about it, enough so that I asked Ben if I could purchase one ahead of time and do a comparison between the normal run, which Ben sent me this one in Starburst. Well, actually, I picked this Starburst titanium version, and Ben sent it along for review. And I wanted to compare it to this version from the Steel Series. So first, I want to talk about this Steel Series and what the difference is. So the Steel Series is called that because instead of using titanium for the integral bolster and liners, it's steel. So it's stainless steel. And then it also has a lower end steel for the blade. So as you can see, this is 14C28N steel versus the S90V that they're using on the premium line. And so 14C28N is a commonly used steel by Chinese manufacturers as kind of a mid-range steel, I would say. It's maybe along the lines of VG10 and 154CM, something like that. But it's a steel that I think a lot of people really like, and actually I've read that Laren Thomas of Knife Steel Nerds, who invented MagnaCut, said that it's one of the best budget-friendly knife steels because of its mix of properties, in the kind of same way that MagnaCut is, because it's not really the best at any one thing, but it has a great mix of properties. And I think that that's the case for 14C28N steel also. It's a steel that I've used relatively, commonly, but I'm not like ultra familiar with it. So I actually decided to do something that I don't usually do, which is a cutting test. I am not a testing YouTube channel. That's not really what I do. I don't really enjoy it. I never really have, but I've done it before on some knives, and I just thought it was a great opportunity here because I do have the same model in 3 different steels. So I've got the original M390, the new premium steel, the S90V, and then the 14C28N. So I'm going to show you a very sped up shot of me doing this testing. And so this testing took me like 46 minutes or something like that. And I've cut it down to like 2.5 minutes. So I'm going to talk through it here because I assume that no one wants to see me cutting cardboard for 46 minutes straight and kind of bumbling through it. Because again, I'm not a tester. I'm not that scientific in how I do things. And so I did my best to make a test that would show some results. But to be completely honest, it didn't really. I was cutting and I made sure that they were sharp ahead of time. Now, truth be told, I did sharpen the M390 version myself. I put a new edge on it because I had used it a good bit, and the other two were a factory edge. So that definitely makes a difference. But I made sure that they were sharp. I stropped them and then, made sure that they cut paper well. And the idea was to cut until they would no longer cleanly cut paper. Well, it's pretty hard to tell what cleanly cutting paper is. It's not a very scientific kind of end point, and especially when it's super windy outside where you're doing it. So I did the S90V first, or no, whichever one I did first. I think it was the S90V. I ended up getting, I think, 80 cuts. And then I did the M390 and got 80 cuts also. And then I did the 14C28N and got 80 cuts also. So I was like, that can't be right, right? 14C28N, according to like the science, should have a lot less edge holding. So I did a little bit more for the other two and found that I think that, what I ended up with was 90, 80 for S90V, 85 for M390, and 80 for 14C28N steel. So for those of you who are listening to this thinking, well, that's just wrong. Sure. Yes, it is. I am not saying that this is a legitimate test in any way. What I am saying, and the conclusion that I came to, is that honestly, it doesn't really matter that much. For me, it's just not something that is a huge consideration as a practical aspect of the knife. I am not saying that I don't appreciate good steel. I do. I really like the S90V. I think it holds an edge really well, and it's actually not that hard to sharpen, in my opinion, either, with diamond stones. But I think for day-to-day use, this 14C28N steel is going to be perfectly fine. It's going to hold an edge long enough. It's going to be easier to sharpen. It's going to be pretty corrosion resistant. And I really was impressed with it. I think, you're going to be able to use this knife for the way that the vast majority of people use their knives and not have any problems. So that's really the conclusion that I came to with my testing, is that for the two conclusions: one, I am not a knife tester. It's not my thing. And two, for me, it doesn't make much of a practical difference. Now, does it feel good to have a fancy steel in your pocket? Sure. Nothing wrong with that. But you're going to be fine with 14C28N steel. And I also actually really like the look of the steel bolsters. So kind of getting back into the steel series itself, I really like the look of these steel bolsters. It has kind of a classy look, actually, because it has the shiny finish to it compared to the titanium. So I really like the look of these. I think that it's a great pairing with this blue micarta. So I think it looks really great. And honestly, the quality, the finish seems pretty much the same to me. Now it's just a satin on the flat, versus, different versions, but this one's stonewash on the flat and satin on the grind. But, it is beautifully made, just like every Jackwolf knife that I've ever had. Great action. I will say one slight difference, for whatever reason, from half stop to close, it's a little quieter than the other version. Now, I don't know if that's like the property of the titanium. So you hear that versus that. So I don't know if it's slower or if it's just, a sound property of the titanium or what it is, but it is slightly different there. But all around, super nicely made. I mean, no gaps whatsoever. Really strong action. These both have stronger action, in my opinion, than mine from the first run. I would say like an 8. 7 or 8, something like that. And really well centered. Just a beautifully made knife. And another difference, though, is the packaging. So these, instead of coming in a nice matte box with a metal tube inside and kind of all the trappings like the microfiber cloth, the stickers, the slip, the leather slip, this just comes in a cardboard tube with wax paper. So even more like GEC, you've got the cardboard tube and the wax paper, and then you can see here that this is the blue linen micarta. So much simpler packaging, not all of the extras and everything, which are part, I think, of what makes the Jackwolf Knives premium line feel so premium. But if that's something you're not interested in, then, I think that these are really cool. So basically, these are $200, whereas the premium versions are $300. And so for $100 less, for 30% off, you get steel instead of titanium. Will you feel a weight difference? I can't. I'm not a big weight person either on knives, but I don't feel a real significant weight difference. There might be. I might be wrong, but I don't really feel it. The look is great. The steel, lower end for sure, but practically not a huge difference. 14C28N. This is gonna upset some people, especially my viewers who are also slip joint enthusiasts like me or traditional knife enthusiasts. But I'll take 14C28N steel over 1095 every single day. And I'm a stainless steel guy. I appreciate stainless steel. I like to not have to worry about my knife getting, rust all over it or the edge going away because of patina. So I'll take it over 1095, which is what you get on GECs any day. So I don't mind the 14C28N steel, and I think that these are a great option. I know a lot of people comment on my videos about Jack Wolf knives that, they're just too expensive, and I am super, super privileged to get to check these out in the way that I do. I know that. I'm very aware of it. But I think that, if I purchased both of these, I hate to say that because this one is so cool. I love the Starburst Titanium, but I think that I would lean towards purchasing this one out of these two. And I mean, I did purchase this one, but didn't purchase this one. So I think that these are a really good option, and I'm really excited to see what else they come out with, like what the Steel Series versions will be on future models. So I really think that this Steel Series is a great thing for Jack Wolf Knives, selling some knives at a lower price with basically the same quality, at least in my example, and less fancy materials, but just as practical materials. So that's the Steel Series, and it's something I'm really excited for, and I'm glad that I got to check this one out alongside this one from the Premium Series. So I got the Starburst Titanium version. I got that. There are other cool versions, especially I think the KSF exclusive, but I got that mostly because I have the Starburst Titanium Midnight Fixed EDC, so to go together with that. And I'm hoping that in the future, Ben and Donnie, Jack Wolf Knives, decide to release one of their one-hand opening knives with Starburst Titanium, and then I will get that, and I will have a full Starburst Titanium carry, and it will be very EDC-er of me, But I really like the Starburst Titanium. I think it's a classic look to it, very cool. It goes great. One of the first fancy knives that I had, probably the first fancy knife that I had, was this Spyderco Native 5 that my brother gave me in the same pattern, titanium. Obviously it's a different finish, but the same pattern. So I really like this look. It's something that I've been around, had for a long time, and really appreciate. So I really like this milling. Now you get a different screw pattern because of that. Rather than seeing the cover screws, you see the spring screws, and these screws are bronzed. So again, with the Midnight Fixed EDC, you see that it came with these blue screws and then bronze here with the Benny's clip, and I think that the blue and bronze go great together also. So I hope they do a one-hand opening knife with the Starburst Titanium, and I'm interested to see what color the screws will be. But I really like the look of it, and again, super well made. Obviously you can't have gaps on the covers because there are none. It's integral. No gaps on the back spring whatsoever. Strong pull, but as you can see, pinchable. That's one thing that I really like about the Benny's clip, is that it is pinchable even though you're pretty high up, and it's because of this really deep nail nick. But very pinchable, great sound, great walk and talk, no play, just wonderful action, perfectly centered. And I think, and Ben said that he kind of thinks also, that they might have thinned out the grind a little bit on these. Now, I could be imagining it, but as compared to the original, I feel like this one cuts slightly better, particularly towards the tip. So, they do have relatively thick tips compared to other Jack Wolf knives, but I feel like it cuts pretty well still. And again, the S90V is great. Another difference here is, like a lot of the re-releases, they have gone to the 3 lines rather than just one on the bolster, kind of a something that's throughout the different models, and they have increased the size of the sharpening choil. So, more sharpening life out of it. So just a beautiful knife. I've really enjoyed getting to carry and use this. It feels great in the hand. I love this handle shape. It feels like a really substantial knife. It feels relatively big. So I want to show you some comparisons. First of all, to the Benny, because this was released relatively recently. The Benny is bigger. It's the modern one-hand opening version of the Benny's clip, or the Lanny's clip. So speaking of which, I talked more about this pattern in my full review of the original Benny's clip, but it's based off of the Lanny's clip, which is a Bose pattern, and is a common custom knife pattern, but it's not an old pattern. It's itself a newer pattern, but it looks like older patterns, you know, even though it is a newer pattern. To me, it looks a lot like a Sodbuster, kind of something like a mix between a Sodbuster and a Trapper. So here is a Gradation Cutlery number 71, and you can see that they have a very similar handle shape, even though the blade shape is different on the Lanny's clip. It's like, you know, with the very abrupt upturn of the belly on the Lanny's clip, that goes along with the shape of a Sodbuster or Bullnose's blade, but it's a clip point on the Lanny's clip. So it does look a lot like a Sodbuster or a Bullnose, depending on what brand is making the knife, to me. And I think it's a really, really cool pattern. I think that there's good reason that it's something you see custom makers doing a lot. Feels great in the hand, very substantial, cuts well. Just another beautiful knife from Jack Wolf Knives that I've really enjoyed. And I wanted to talk about something here on the release. These are being released at dealers as normal. Like I say, Knife Ship Free has an exclusive. I love buying knives at Knife Ship Free. It's always great, and so I highly recommend them. I also recommend Traditional Pocket Knives. Austin is great. You know, those are the two places that I would generally recommend. But this is the first release that Jack Wolf Knives is selling through their site also. And you can buy either, you know, the premium or the Steel Series from their site. And either way, you get a free USA-made leather slip. So if you were to buy a premium, you would get the normal leather slip that comes with these. So these come with really cool tube and art, which I showed in my unboxing, so you can check that out if you'd like to see this a little bit closer. But as usual, it comes with a slip. So it comes with a leather slip. These are really nice leather slips. I use them frequently. Here is the one that I use a lot if I'm not using my Cordovan leather slip from Jack Wolf Knives. But they're really nice, but you know, they're not USA made, whereas this is. So you can see USA made. I believe the maker's name is Taylor Cortez, and they are included if you purchase one of these Benny's clips from Jack Wolf Knives directly. So if you were to get the premium series, you get 2 slips. If you get the Steel Series, you still get one of these, and so you get a slip with your knife, whereas the Steel Series does not come with a slip, as I mentioned. So I think it's a nice little bonus. I mean, this is, I would say, at least like a $40 slip, something like that. You know, it's the slips kind of do range in their pricing and stuff, but I think it's a nice add-on. And another note is that this actually matches very nicely with the sheath. I was a mix between slip and sheath. The sheath for the Midnight Fixed EDC. So you can have yourself a little set. Get your Starburst Titanium Benny's clip, and if you already have the Starburst Titanium Midnight Fixed EDC, there you go. You got yourself a nice matching set there. So that's a nice little bonus that you can get if you order directly from Jack Wolf Knives. But wherever you order, I hope you love your Benny's clip. I hope you get one if you'd like one. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and select all so you know when I post new videos. Also go to knifethoughts.com and subscribe to my email newsletter. And last but not least, wait a second. If I didn't already, I want to thank Ben, Donnie, everyone at Jack Wolf Knives for sending this knife along for review and allowing me to get the Steel Series early. I really appreciate it. I love checking these out, and Jack Wolf Knives are great. So thank you again to Ben and Donnie and everyone there. And last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.